Hello, welcome to highlights of round one of the Odd Down Winter Series 2025. We've got 3 races on the schedule for you today, and it begins with the open second and third category race. The riders rolled out from the start for their 35-minute plus 3-lap race on a relatively calm February afternoon up at Odd Down. Wind blowing gently from the south, as you can see from the flags, and the early moves started to roll immediately with riders in the bunch, fresh legs, ready to start the season, giving very short leash to the early push. You can see riders from Reflex Racing, or Reflex No Pins as they are this year, amassed towards the front trying to control things. You've got Jack Baldy and Will Duffy, who followed up the initial attack with the second move of the day, barging clear, but they again were given a very short leash by Reflex No Pins, looking to keep the early part of the race under control. It was themselves who sent a rider up the road next, with Lucas Lilliston from Avid Sport deciding not to continue with that attack, and the bunch then gave quite a bit of a margin to the solo rider, declared it a suicide mission to his supporters at the side of the circuit, and it wasn't long before the bunch found its pace again and started to peg a solo rider back. When the wind conditions are benign, can often favour the bunch on a circuit like Odd Down. Even though there are the corners, without the wind to tease the gaps apart, it can be difficult for solo riders. But that didn't stop those trying. We had another move, another rider from the Reflex No Pins getting up the road this time. And this time they were joined by a rider from Halesowen, one of 2 riders. And it did start to look like it may become a threatening move. But as was the theme of the day, the breakaway was only given a lap or 2 of grace before the bunch came charging back again. Jack Baldy of Train Sharp Development Team at the front of the bunch this time. You can see a few gaps starting to open up further back, but when the catch of that group was made, a little bit of the impetus went out, and next rider to go was the previous mentioned Lilliston. And again, you can see Jack Beveridge from Reflex No Pins looking to cover that move to make sure they had their numbers showing, and that once again neutralised the attack. You can see that surge stop. It wasn't for want of trying, but it was looking increasingly difficult for the riders looking to make the breakaway to get clear, those gaps opening up, but enough of an impetus in the bunch to try and peg things back. And each time the race surged, you'd get this hold up as riders recouped once the catch was made, looking for where the next attack was going to come from. And so as we approached the kind of final stage of the races, again we can see more riders looking to charge out into the gap on their own. Sometimes a little bit difficult to tell early in the season who's racing for who, and lots of black kits with new kits on order and the like, but it's always easy to see Reflex No Pins at this point in the race. They had constantly had riders on the offensive, and they were again putting a rider up the road and using teammates in the bunch to try and force others to chase. And that just meant that these moves were always looking to be neutralised as soon as possible. And although there were plenty of riders looking to try and make and break another Halesowen rider going across there, you can see the weight of numbers just meant that an effective fighting force of 6 to 8 riders was never quite able to form. More attacks. Riders looking behind to see who's going to close the gap in this occasion, so it looked like as we kind of head towards the end of the race there might be potential, but then with 1 lap to go, just caught a glimpse going past the shot there. Jack Baldy absolutely sent it as they crossed the line, hearing the bell, and instantly got the most definitive gap of the day. And even though it was only a 1 lap move, there was absolutely no doubt coming around the final corner that Jack Baldy of Train Sharp Development Team would take the win, the first win of his year. He was followed across the line by a rider in black. Apologies, hard to identify. Reflex No Pins got their credit for their race with a 3rd place finish just across the line there, and then the bunch swooping in a few seconds behind Jack for the final results. So an aggressive race, a fast race, but nothing too extraordinary. Easy to say standing at the side of the circuit for the 2nd and 3rd cat riders. Just to confirm that the 2nd place rider was none other than Daniel Burt across the line. And now on to the under 16s and under 14s open and female races, both in progress at the same time. So we'll cut across the 2 races together. This is the leading group of the under 16s. as they charge across the line in the early stage of the race. And then the under 14s here, slightly smaller group of riders, not in enthusiasm, albeit in number. And you can see the pace was on, as is traditionally the case in these youth races in the early laps, with riders trying to charge clear. And it was Lucas Lilliston, who you've seen racing in the second and third cap race later in the day. This was his first race of the day here, and that was the first time a definitive gap opened up in the middle of the under 16 group. The under 14s, attacks coming from riders from the Sulu Scorpions and beyond, but this initial group of 6 clustered together. Lucas Lilliston was initially joined by his teammate of Loris Keynes, but Loris was ridden off the wheel by his teammate midway through the race, leaving a single rider in the lead with 1 pursuer and then a group of 4 behind. The under 14s were led by a number of riders. Hales Owen represented, as well as Hannah English and Isabella Jones, the top 2 riders in the female race. In the end, Lucas Lilliston would not be denied. Loris Keynes taking second, and a fantastic sprint for third place from none other than James Saunders took the top 3. In the under 14 race, first across the line was Oliver Howard, with Isabella Jones closely behind. So the top 3 in the Youth A race, Lucas Lilliston, Loris Keynes, and it was James Saunders. Georgia Lovett was the top rider in the female under 16 race. And then we had Isabella Jones leading from Hannah English in the under 14 girls. And finally, it was hard to keep track on the day as well, with lots of riders all over the place. The under 14 Open, Oliver Howard, and then the 2 Satonia riders, Lorenzo and Julio Scarponi. And the final race to show you is the Open 4th cap race, and this was 26 riders or so at the start. Lots of potential new racers kind of dipping their toes into the bunch racing scene for the first time, and always great to see. And very similar theme as we saw with the Open 2-3 race. The wind conditions were kind to the bunch, and so that meant that any rider that got away was going to need to really throw the cat amongst the pigeons. And so that didn't stop them trying, and we did see some prominent moves. Joseph Sykes was fairly frequently looking to try and make a gap. He's in the white backed jersey with the dark shoulders. Here he comes now, charging away to try and split the group, and was able to kind of tease open a few gaps down the line and put a few of the riders out towards the back, but the accordion effect of the bunch meant that everyone was very willing to chase, enough fresh legs in the group, and not enough of a crosswind to tease it apart, that all the moves were foiled as you went through the race, and it started to look almost inevitable that we'd be coming down to a bunch sprint at the finish. You can see lap after lap riders looking to try and get away. However, the tightly packed wheels show just how close it was at the front. So coming into the final sprint finish, here we go. You can see it was a very close run thing. There are riders all over the road. A very clean sprint for a 4th cap race, which is very pleasing to see. And the final order across the line, as mentioned previously, you had Joseph Sykes taking the win, with Jack Shepherd and Mark Shepherd following across the line. We had a stand-in for 3rd place, if you're wondering what is going on there. And that is a conclusion for the first round of the Odd Down Winter Series in 2025. Thank you for watching. See you for round 2 on the 15th of February.